Hello there, Super World Jellyfish here, and welcome to Same As It Ever Was. This is going to be a new video format I'm going to be trying, where in between the really big, crazy edited videos that I tend to make, this is going to be a more relaxed, less edited, although still edited a bit, but just not as crazily, version of the reactions, where instead of reacting to albums that I've already listened to, I'll instead be re-reacting to albums that I may have not heard in a while, but I feel like would make quite interesting content. And for this album in particular, I think this one will work wonders because this album is Turn on the Bright Lights by Interpol. We'll just quickly go through the rating scale for this. So if a track is good, it will get Muse's Origin of Symmetry, because if I ever listen to anything good, I've noticed this is a trend now, I will not shut the fuck up about it for the next week, or 2 weeks, or 3, or, you know, it doesn't really matter how many weeks. It's usually quite a while. There's been a lot of albums this year that have been so good, and I just cannot shut up about them. So I feel like Origin of Symmetry would be a good choice, and considering the sound that Muse and Interpol offer on the records Origin of Symmetry and Turn on the Bright Lights, I think that they do have quite a bit of intellect, so it is a fitting choice for a good rating. If a track is meh, I'm gonna give it Nirvana's Bleach, because I listened to that recently for the first time, and it was good, but a lot of it kind of faded into the background. It kind of became background music to me in a weird way. I feel like maybe on re-listens I'll get to a point where I really enjoy it, and then I kind of get really annoyed that I chose this to be the meh rating. But from what I heard, it kind of is a mediocre album. There were a lot of good elements, but there were also a lot of elements that were kind of stale and didn't really work that well. I think Nevermind, as much of a normie thing for me to say, it is a lot better than Bleach. I think the sound is a lot more refined overall. So if a track is bad, it will get Raya and the Last Dragon. The reason that I'm just randomly bringing this movie out is because I feel like when I get to the point where I start looking analytically into film, because I definitely do want to do that at some point, I know that this film is going to be on the chopping block, because this one I was expecting to only be mediocre, but it ended up being a lot worse than I was expecting. So yeah, I didn't like that film. It was really bad, especially from a writing aspect. And then if a track is proless, so recently I decided to listen to Dream's Mask.
With a smile for hours at a time.
I think that's all I need to say, really. So Turn on the Bright Lights, I am incredibly excited to listen to this album again. It's going to be a lot of fun making a video on an album that I already know I'm incredibly passionate about. So here we go, Untitled. I guess I'll give my thoughts on what I thought of the track from what I remember before I go into them again, so you guys have got an idea of how I felt of the track beforehand. So I guess for Untitled, yeah, this track has this very ethereal kind of sound to it. It's very pleasant and soothing. It has this sort of layer of uncertainty to it, and I feel like it will be very interesting to see how this track is like on a re-listen. So yeah, let's go. Every time that I replay this album, it's always so lovely to hear this. It's so blissful. I think everything has this sort of slow build to it, but it doesn't feel like it's dragging at all. It really works. The pacing of this track is just so good, and we haven't even got to vocals yet. Paul Banks' vocals on this track are so beautiful. Like, I feel like the lyrics, I don't know if I would call them cryptic. You know, surprise sometimes will come around, surprise sometimes will come around, I will surprise you sometime, I'll come around, I'll surprise you sometime, I'll come around when you're down. I don't know, the lyrics on this entire album are very interesting. There's a lot you can unpack, even with this track having not that many lyrics to it. Maybe either it's like a whole idea of like sort of talking to the listener in a way, because from what I remember, this album is very depressing. So maybe this is Paul Banks sort of speaking to the listener, sort of going, you know, when you're down, you know, you can be here listening to this, because I find that you usually find that with depressing albums like this and most of Radiohead's catalogue. So, you know, maybe this is a protagonist who's talking to someone else, maybe like a lover or something. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to interpret this. I always love albums that have so many interpretations. They're always fantastic when they have that going for them. Like I said, ethereal. I love the soundscape of this track. It's gorgeous. Every time. It's gorgeous. I think the only criticism I had for this track, from what I remember, is that this outro feels like it goes on for like one little segment too long. Obviously, I'll see how that works with this listen. Although, for as long as this outro is, it's a damn good outro. It is a damn good outro. Yeah, I didn't really feel that length at all, actually. When tracks are this good, 3 minutes can feel like a lot less. And I don't really feel like when music feels like it's shorter than it actually is, that always means it's a good thing. But here, I think it's because you're so immersed and so grabbed by the track that you just don't feel that length. It always just feels like an experience that you're going along with. That didn't shrink on me. That was even better than it was last listen. So, wow. This track gets Origin of Symmetry, without a doubt. And now it's time to look at the most popular song with over 49 million streams, which, I mean, to everyone who has streamed this, you all have a fantastic taste in music. Yeah, Obstacle 1. I feel like I'm already spoiling it saying that this track is good, but like I already know it's going to be good. It's just if this track is going to be even better than I remember it being. So yeah, let's go. Obstacle 1. It starts off brilliantly too. I absolutely love that. It fits so good. I also like with the drum beat, it starts off quite simple here, and then it starts doing little other things as well throughout the song. It's so cool. She's back. Oh, transition. Wow. I'm so happy to be re-listening to this. I don't know why I haven't re-listened to this in a while. Oh, this is so good. Yeah, this track has so much to it that I absolutely love. The vocals are so interesting. Like, they sound like they're being spoken out of a megaphone almost. They also sound so raw and punchy as well. Everything else coming together as well. Like I mentioned with the drum beat, like the drums on this track are so good, because I love the way that, I love how they never stick to one thing. They just do so much with it. Sam Fogarino, I'll just refer to him as Sam. Sam's drumming on this track, I love how there's so much variation to the drumming that he actually does on the track. It's not just a simple bum bum ba bum bum ba bum bum ba, you know, it's more than just bass snare. And the chorus as well, like where he starts playing on the ride cymbal, it works so well, and all the switch ups and just there's so much about this track that's amazing. I could talk about this all day. I also think the lyrics are very interesting as well, because I think it's about From what I read, it seems to sort of talk about a relationship. It sort of talks about how there's like so much that I feel like the protagonist of this track, because it definitely feels like a protagonist, is talk about so much here, mainly going on about old times, speaking of like what things used to be, and the whole thing about, you know, she can read, it's clearly showing that, you know, it's clear to this person that the protagonist is feeling all these feelings. It's just the way all of this is worded. Like, I wish I could eat the salt off of your lost faded lips. That's such an interesting way to word all of this. It's very unique. I love how it's not written so simply. There's so much texture and so much rawness to a lot of these vocals and lyrics on this track, and from what I remember, a lot of the rest of this album does the same thing. I am actually hating every time I pause this because I just want to keep listening to it. It's so good. It's the mention of his and him as well. That's really interesting too. There's a lot of interesting on this track. The drumming with the stabbing bit, the drum beat there, and drum beat here as well. The drums on this track are amazing. She puts the weight into my little heart and she gets in my room and she takes it apart. I'm guessing that there's a lot with the protagonist that's wrong, like quite clearly, and this person, she's not only able to tell, but she's also able to sort of deconstruct that, and as well as that, the protagonist sort of explains how he feels that she puts so much weight on him as well. I feel like this is one of those tracks where there'll just be a point in my life where I relate to this too much, I'll just end up sobbing to this thing. It's a very emotional track, and it feels like a very relatable track from what I'm reading into this as well. I love how, as well as being vocally interesting and lyrically interesting, the instrumentation of this album, from what I remember and from what I've heard so far, is just so sublime. It's so amazing. Like, how everything comes together and how everything sounds sonically, it's just beautiful. Masterpiece, perfect track, origin of symmetry, without a bloody doubt. This song, the funniest thing about this song, right, is that this is called Obstacle 1, and there's a track later on this album called Obstacle 2, and you will see what my thoughts are on Obstacle 2. I love this track so much. This song is so good. It's so good. If anyone was ever like, I want to get an impression of what Interpol are like so I can understand if I would enjoy their music or not, this would be the track I'd show them, because without a doubt, this track easily represents the best of what this band can offer from what I've heard, because I've only heard Turn the Bright Lights and a tad bit of their sophomore effort Antics, and you know, as well as good as it is a representation, it's also just a fan-bloody-tastic track. This is brilliant so far. I am very happy I'm going through this again. Me knowing that I'm not gonna have to edit this as crazily as all the other videos that I usually make, it makes this feel a lot more comfortable of an experience overall, and I'm not saying the other ones don't, all the other reactions don't feel comfortable, but I mean, because I know that this will sort of be a very comfortable video to edit and put out, it kind of puts that comfort on me as I'm listening to this. This feels a lot more chilled than most of the other reactions, and I quite like that actually. I feel like I'm definitely going to do more of these if this video goes well, and I'm hoping it really does actually. Now let's go on to New York Cares. New York Cares is kind of similar to Untitled in just how ethereal it sounds. A lot of this album sounds quite ethereal, but yeah, this track, it's very melancholic, but it's also got this real beauty to it in a way, and I am very excited to re-listen to this one. So yeah, New York Cares, let's go. Every every track on this album as well, it opens so perfectly. There's not been a single opener so far that has felt like it drags for too long or anything. And they all work brilliantly. Drumming again. Drumming. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Also, Paul Banks' vocals on this track specifically, they just sound so beautiful. I've been to New York before, and I will say, like, this is definitely building a scene of what it looked like back in 2002, and it looks like that in 2016 as well. This chorus is so perfect. I do also find that Subway is a porno thing. It is actually quite an interesting lyric, mainly because of how it switches itself up on the second verse, because it goes from Subway is a porno to Subway she is a porno. I felt there was a lot that can be unpacked from that. So yeah, I find that quite interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to shut up about the drumming. The drumming on this and the sound palette, the synths on this. Oh God, it's brilliant. I think the album title drops here as well, isn't it? I think. It's up to me now, turn on the bright lights. And it goes in again. It's hard to listen to this track without just feeling like you're being lifted up into the air. This gives very similar feelings to what it feels like to listen to most Swans tracks from The Glowing Man specifically. It's amazing. Yeah, Origin of Symmetry, obviously. This track is just... I love this track so much. It's not my favourite from the album, but it's definitely up there. It's such a glorious track to listen to every single time. There's never one time that I listen to this track that I don't feel completely taken away by it. I feel like, as well as that, every track so far, it doesn't blend in the sense that every single track sounds the same, but I feel like the sound palette of this album is very consistent in terms of just offering very blissful synth-like sounds. There's a very ethereal atmosphere to this album, which I think greatly boosts its quality. And as well as that, I feel this album is also very, very timeless as well, because this came out in 2002, and listening to it now is just as amazing as it would have been to listen to it back in 2002. I wasn't alive in 2002, but if I heard it back then, I mean, based on music that had already came out, I'd be absolutely blown away by this then, even more than I would be now. Based on everything that was coming out in the 2000s, this is a major highlight. And now we go on to the track which I am not too sure how I'm going to feel about, because this one is the first one that I already know is worse than the other tracks. I say worse because I don't think I've ever disliked this song, but compared to the first three tracks, it isn't really on the same level. I feel like the other three tracks are just on this plane of holy fuck, this is amazing, and then this track is less than that. This opening though, I've always remembered this opening is really damn good. I love this opening. I mean, I do like the whole instrumentation to this track. There's a lot to unpack around that. I just think the vocal delivery is okay. I think the other tracks vocally were a lot better compared to this. Also, the whole line of "I'm raking all around me." Apparently, from what I read, in the album version he says raking, but in a different version of the song he said "I'm raping all around me," which I mean, the difference is quite huge, I think. I don't know. It's a very weird lyric, and I can't really tell if it feels out of place. It definitely stands out, but I can't tell if it's in a good way or a bad way. Take that as you will, I guess. I don't really know. Yeah, it's hard to really tell how I feel about this track. There are things I like, but there's also other things that are kind of just okay. I mean, in a weird way, this second pre-chorus I actually do kind of like the vocal. It's weird, it's all over the place for me in terms of how I feel about it. Although, I will spoil one thing now. The ending of this makes the track. Yeah. It's just started, and I'm not kidding. If you haven't heard this album before, it gets better and better. But yeah, I think the main thing I'd say about PDA overall, vocally, it's the weakest track on the album, without a doubt. And I'd also say lyrically, it's very uninteresting. There's not really that much to pick out of it that really stands out. Instrumentally though, I wouldn't say it's the same as the vocals. I think instrumentally it's a lot stronger, but I'd say in elements where like the hook, it kind of just repeats itself with not really that much change up. But this outro is where my thoughts completely change. I think the outro to this is perfect. It's probably one of the best moments on the entire album, and it's the outro to a song that I'm not even really that huge on, so that goes to show just how brilliant this outro is. The vocals on this bit are amazing. Oh, it's not even the lead singer, it's that's interesting actually. It's Daniel Kessler, who's the lead guitarist. That's interesting, actually. I'm going to say that this track was meh. It gets an abundance of bleach. I don't hate this track as much as I complain about it. Like when I'm usually casually listening to this track, I can enjoy it, and every time I hear the outro, it's bliss. But yeah, when it comes to the track overall, I just think that second half, well not even really that second half, that last quarter is so much better than the rest of the track. I don't really know. It's weird because sometimes I hear this track and I actually do quite enjoy it, but there are some times where it just doesn't really work for me. I feel like it just depends on the mood really. I will say though, I am in the mood for the next track. Say Hello to the Angels, which I'm just gonna say it now. I am 100% not gonna hate this. I think I'm just gonna start playing it, and I think from my reaction alone, it should be made pretty clear how I feel about it. Oh my god, that start is so fucking good. This track just gets better and better as it keeps going. It's phenomenal. And you're wondering, like, where does it go from here, right? I love how that track goes from such a phenomenal intro into Interpol's take on Walking on the Sunshine. Like, it pretty much sounds near exactly the same as the instrumentation on Walking on the Sunshine. But it's just the way that it's implemented on this track, it just works so damn well. Lyrically, I haven't really looked into that much when it comes to this track lyrically, because when it comes to the sound of this track, that's more what I'm focused on. When it comes to just the sound of this track, it's honestly one of my all-time favorites. I don't just mean that from this album, I just mean in general, really. This song is phenomenal. This chorus kicks ass. The thing I didn't mention there was just that whole bit with the whole "this isn't you yet." The way that the track just ends up sounding like even more blissful than it already does. The way that Paul Banks like puts all that inflection on his vocals in this bit, it just works so well. And as well as that, from what I'm actually picking up now, because I am starting to pick things up here, this whole track seems to sort of talk about like all the protagonist is seeing in this person. I'm noticing that, yeah, there's a lot of themes of a protagonist on this because there's a lot of second person imagery here and first person imagery here. There's first person, second person imagery here. And in a weird way, I don't know if this is a concept album, but there's so many concepts brought forward on all of these tracks, which I really like. I mean, PDA, I wasn't really able to pick up any from what I heard, but when it comes to all the other tracks, there's definitely a lot of concepts and themes going on here, and I love that when music does that. I love when songs aren't just plain and simply are just made because. You know, they're made for the album. They're made as a single. Like, these just feel like songs written from the heart, and I love that. And also, this track just kicks ass as well. That's interesting. We should take a trip now to see new places. I'm sick of this town. I see my face has changed. Wait, so... Oh, okay, wait. So the protagonist is saying, like, I'm sick of this town and that we should see new places. So I'm guessing he's sort of saying, like, we need to sort of spice the relationship up a little bit. There's more things that we should just do in general. So I'm guessing, like, because he's now saying that he's, like, sick of this town. So him saying, I see my face has changed, I'm guessing that's sort of showing that he used to sort of feel happy about all this, but like now, because not that much more is really going on, things are just starting to get stale and he's not really liking it as much anymore. So I'm guessing from that, if that is the right interpretation, this entire track has mainly been him going on about how he feels about this person, and now this is the point where he's sort of saying, like, if things don't really change that much, then he's probably just going to feel sick of this person. That feedback, that feedback was just, that worked so well. Yeah, that one gets Origin of Symmetry, without a doubt. Yeah, I think so far, honestly, thinking about it, this might be my favourite from the first half of this, which is crazy to say, but I really do love the first 3 songs, but this one is just, it's such a standout. Like, there's a reason that this was one of the tracks that I replayed the most last year. I don't have the stats because I haven't really been tracking my music history, but I know that that was a track that I was listening to constantly. This is one of the standouts, without a doubt. And now we move on to Hands Away. There seems to be a lot of tracks on this album that have that same sort of sound as Untitled and New York Cares in terms of this sort of ethereal sound, but without a doubt, this track easily has like the most transcendent sound on the entire album from what I remember. I'm incredibly excited to revisit this one. This track is definitely the cool down. It is kind of a breather because it's kind of transitioning from this first half into the second, and it does that pretty damn well from what I remember. I guess the way I'd best compare this would probably be to something like False Art, or as a Swan's breather. If you don't know what I mean by that, False Art from Radiohead's In Rainbows, it definitely feels like a breather track in the entire track list, but it works really well because not only is it a really good song, but it brilliantly transitions the album from All I Need to Reckoner. And when I reference Swans, I mean that in the sense that on the album To Be Kind, in a way I kind of view 3 tracks on that album as breather tracks, those being Some Things We Do, Kirsten Supine and Natalie Neal, even though Kirsten Supine and Natalie Neal are just... calling them breather tracks kind of feels wrong in a sense, but to me, they feel like breather tracks, although Some Things We Do is definitely a breather track, like, without a doubt. That's why I would compare this to them. It definitely feels like a breather track from what I remember. But, yeah, let's listen to this. Let's listen to this and see how it holds up, which I think it will, but let's see. It definitely starts off giving the whole vibe of a breather track as well, actually. This is kind of similar to Untitled in the sense there aren't really much lyrics here. The sound of that hi-hat on this one, and just of the beat, like the bass hi-hat, just so lovely on the ears. sounds more like a ride cymbal. Everything comes together in this cacophony of beautiful sound. I love it. And the delivery, like the vocal delivery that Paul Banks gives on this track as well, it's very melancholic. The whole lyrics of this track I'm not really too sure on. I don't mean too sure in the sense that I don't like the lyrics. I mean like more in the case of the understanding. Genius says the song is about a homosexual man who is into bondage. Banks had also stated that people don't usually understand his humour. That's from the standpoint of a homosexual into bondage, which is just the quote that he gives. From what I see, I don't really read into it like that. But you know, that's the singer giving his perspective on the song that he wrote. So I'm guessing that's the meaning, but I'm not really seeing the meaning with these lyrics. That gets Origin of Symmetry easily. Yeah, again, lyrically, I'm just confused by the meaning of this track. But you know what, just because you don't understand the lyrics for a track, it doesn't detract anything if it sounds this good. Yeah, amazing track. And now we're going to Obstacle 2. This track, I struggled to call it my favourite because there are so many tracks on this album that I would also refer to as my favourite. But this is close. In fact, I think on some days I would say that this is my favourite track. The vocal delivery on this track is just so unique and it works so bloody well for the aesthetic that the track brings along. And the aesthetic of this track too. Yeah, let's go into it. Obstacle 2. I'm gonna pull you in close, gonna wrap you up. Okay, no, this is my favourite track on the album. No, it is. I don't need to. Nah, this is my favourite track on the album. I'm gonna give the rating straight away. Origin of Symmetry. I don't care. This is the best track on the album without a bloody doubt. Let's go. It's the sound of the guitar alone. Like that made me just realise, nah, this is the best track. And the lyrics as well are just crazy on this track. One of my favourite songs of all time. I love this. I feel like love is in the kitchen with a culinary eye. I think he's making something special and I'm smart enough to try. I've had this song stuck in my head at times. I feel like I want to cover this at some point. It's such a good song. And it feels like there's a lot more desperation in this part. The backing vocals here too. As a sequel to Obstacle 1, it feels weird because I don't know if this really like works as a sequel to Obstacle 1. This is just an amazing song. But like thinking of it as a sequel to Obstacle 1, it's hard to view it like that to me. I kind of see the two songs as separate in a weird way. The sound of these two songs, in terms of what they're going for more than the sound, I think like the sound palette for what we've had so far on this album has mostly been the same. But when it comes to the song structure and the sounds being brought across here and the vocal delivery especially, it makes it stand out so differently to Obstacle 1. And again, like Paul Banks' vocal delivery on this track is just, it sounds so good and it also just sounds so unique as well. Oh, and the ending to this. So many of the endings of these tracks are amazing, but this one. I don't feel like there's anything else to say, really. I feel like I made it pretty clear every single one of my thoughts on this track. Listening to it in like this whole reaction context, it just makes it even better for me because I'm just able to vibe to this song and it makes it clear how I feel about this entirely. Like you could just see me listening to this track and it would be clear what I think about it. But anyway, Stella was a diver and she was always down. From what I remember, this was one of those tracks where I think it's a lot more lyrically interesting. I think the whole sound of this song is probably the weakest on the entire album. I don't remember how good this track was. Because if I have to be honest, everything past Obstacle 2 except for the new specifically, a lot of it's sort of a blur to me. I don't remember most of this. Although, then again, I think Stella was one of the tracks that I kind of have a vague memory of what it was like.
This one's called Stella was a diver and she's always down.
I mean, I like that opening though. It's quirky. I like it. I mean, this track definitely feels like it's telling a story in a way. And the whole track has this very melancholic sound to it. Because it's called Stella was a diver and she's always down, it definitely implies that this track is a lot darker than it comes off of. What was I talking about? This track is really fucking good. This track is really good. What the hell? It's very engaging vocally, instrumentally too. And this switch up as well. I like so many of the switch ups on this album. This is a good switch up as well. There's definitely a beauty to the sound of this track, but it also feels like there's so much melancholy that it's submerged in. At the bottom of the ocean she dwells. Oh. Oh fuck. That's a lot darker than I remember it being. I knew this track was dark, but it's weird because it's one of those cases where I can't exactly pin down what it is, but it's just something about that lyric that's just so unsettling. I like Paul Banks' vocal delivery here as well. His vocals on this track are really good. I don't know what I was saying. They're great. Cut off the drum set. Oh, and again, oh, yes. Every one of these tracks ends so well. Every one of them. That track was even better than I remember it being. It gets Origin of Symmetry easily. Tracks like this is why I'm hoping that this format works well, because re-exploring this track again, especially looking into the lyrics this time, it's so rich in detail. I feel like if I really went into this in terms of like trying to understand this track, I feel like it would break me. It's really depressing from what I'm picking up from it. Phenomenal track. I'm really glad that one grew, actually. I'm really glad that one grew. I feel like I'll be coming back to this one a lot more than I used to. Now we go on to the sulk of the album. If you don't know what I mean by that, the album The Bends has a track called Sulk, and I keep forgetting that track exists every single time I listen to the album, because every single time it gets to it, I'm like, oh yeah, this track exists. And that is the case for Roland. I do not remember a single little detail from this track. This track is a blur to me. And same thing for the closer as well, which is insane that a closer is a track that I forget, but like seriously, I just do not remember them at all. So there are no expectations going into these. This will technically feel like a first reaction. Yeah, let's see how it goes. Starting off interesting. What the actual fuck is that filter? I will say one thing, it is incredibly impressive that we are now at the 9th track, and this is the first one where we're running into like the first one with issues. That is incredibly impressive, like the fact that it's taken 9 tracks to get there. That's insane. That really goes to show just how fantastic this album has been so far. Even saying that, yeah, I'm not liking this track so far. I think I'm now starting to understand why I've probably blocked this out of my memory. So yeah, let's keep going. Hopefully it gets better. It started off with so much promise, but it's just the vocals here. It sounds so bad. It's the filter ruins it. I mean, this bit sounds good, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like this track. I don't like this at all. Even the instrumentally, it's just, there's little moments, but like, that's little moments. I need more than little moments. What is this, a throwaway? Yeah, it's a fucking throwaway. Oh god, I'm getting angry. Oh no. This bit sounds good. Like, little moments, like I said, there's little moments. The little moments aren't enough. I wasn't expecting to actually get pissed off by one of these songs. Oh my god. It's not working for me. This isn't working for me at all. It's just instrumentally, like, this is the least interesting track on the entire album instrumentally, without a doubt. That lasted so longer than it actually felt. 3 minutes, like, that didn't feel like 3 minutes, that felt like 5. That felt longer than 5. Oh god, that was bad. That was really bad. Look, the reason I made the pro list rank was only for tracks that literally have no positives, so I can't give this pro list. I can't give this Mask, and it definitely isn't as bad as Mask. I'd rather listen to this constantly than Mask. But it's gonna get right on the last track, and I was not expecting to give a single track a bad rating, but good lord, that was not good. That was not good at all. Left a bad taste in my mouth too. I am so glad the new is next. I am so glad the new is next, because you get an understanding on the new and my feelings towards it. I had this track playing for a whole week, like just constantly, over and over again. Not just in my head, I mean literally as well. This track is one of the best tracks on the album. It's not my favourite. Obstacle 2 is my favourite. I think I now quite clearly understand that. This one's great. This one is very, it stands out very specifically. Let's get into it. The new. And already we're back to great tracks again. The sound mixing on this album as well, just it's amazing. Last track sounds shit, but the rest of them, heckable. Even PDA was mixed amazingly as well. When Paul Banks doesn't have a shit vocal effect, he sounds really good. Like him. This always hits like a track as well. This track is so powerful. Instrumentally, it's gorgeous. I can't pretend I need to defend part of me from you. I know I've spent some time. The whole thing, it just sounds like there's a very vague amount of hope that the protagonist has here. Because like clearly it's showing that like he just feels like this relationship is just not working. There's just so much that's not working about it. Because when he says like life will be better then, so like he's saying that either because they're living together they'll be better, or like maybe then he'll feel better, so that like just in general, so when he's with this person then like things will just work out more, because he also says I gave a lot to you, I take a lot from you too. So maybe that's like the emotional toll that he has on her and how she has that as well. Obviously she could be a him from some of the imagery shown here, like on the track Hands Away, for example. Here, oh, I don't know if this is gonna actually move me to tears. It's getting very close. Just instrumentally, it works so well. And this bit, everything so far has been amazing, but this bit makes the song entirely. Instrumental feels like it's actually just taking so much out of me. Like it actually feels like all the lyrics so far just building up to this. If you haven't heard this, you think this is where it ends, right? Just wait. It ends the track so well. This is my favourite outro on the album, without a doubt. It just, so much intensity is brought onto this ending, and it just complements everything about this track so well. That track, was a masterpiece. It gets Origin of Symmetry, and yeah, I think that's why I was hesitating to call Obstacle 2 my favorite, because this track is like just as brilliant, and I honestly don't know. I can't even tell if better. I think the emotion on this track is definitely better than Obstacle 2, like without a doubt. Like the amount of emotion just brought onto this track is so much, and I know for a fact this song will hit me at one point. Like it already like hits me quite a bit, but I mean like there's gonna be a point. This track has the least streams on this album, and I find that insulting, like how little people have heard this one. I mean, it is nearly 5 million people who have heard this, but still. We need to get onto the last track quickly because my battery's starting to run out fast and I don't like the blinking lights. So, final track. Please do not be another Roland. Leif Erikson. Let's go. Paul's vocals here sound a lot more, a lot deeper on here. I'm actually quite liking the vocal delivery on this one. I'm not picking up anything lyric-wise though, at all. I really like the vocal delivery on the chorus specifically. The instrumental palette to this song as well. This is definitely the most unique track on the album. I like it. I like it. Part of me does wish that maybe the final track overall could have been maybe a bit more explosive or a bit more like the new. But even then, I do still quite like this, and I think this is an interesting way to end this. The drums here sound really good. I mentioned that a lot. The snare specifically is good. It's unique, as I was saying, this track is, I'm feeling some of the sounds previously like coming back in a way. This is feeling a lot more climatic as well than it was at the beginning of the track. I'm loving the vibe of this whole track. It's so melancholic, but like in a great way. Holy shit, did the track just end? Wow, that went quick. That track went really quick. Oh, wow. I'll give that Origin of Symmetry, definitely. That was definitely a good track. That's definitely an interesting track. I'm going to come back to that one more, because that one I have not heard that much, and it was really interesting. Again, like I said, battery's really low, so let's do this bit quick. So, Turn on the Bright Lights. This album is a classic. I was right for thinking that this is one of the best albums I've ever heard, because it is. Obviously, because I've now realised that Roland is a track I do not like. The rest of the tracks are brilliant. Like even PDA being mediocre, like the phenomenal parts of that song definitely make it, like, for a mediocre track, definitely make it a really good mediocre track. And then just the rest of them are phenomenal. Interpol are definitely a band I want to listen to more of. Absolutely. Like, Antics, I'm going to get round to listening to all of that because I've only heard the first 2 tracks, so I've got the vinyl copy of it. Yeah, Interpol overall, I've really got to get to listening to more of this band because this album is just so good. After going through the footage, I realised that I hadn't actually rated the album. All of my thoughts have pretty much stayed the same, so I would say that this album is a strong 8. I hope you enjoyed this reaction. I'm really hoping I can make more videos like this because I've definitely enjoyed filming this one. So this has been Super Wild Jellyfish. May you strive to be your world self.